welcome to the show where we share the stories of the many who intersect with our healthcare system but are rarely heard from. My name is Kevin Poe, founder and editor of Kevin MD. Today on the show, we have Katie Townes. She is a neonatologist and she wrote the Kevin MD article, 4 Ways to Decrease Your Dread of Being on Call. Katie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me here.
So we'll get into your article in a little bit, but first off, can you share your story and your journey to where you are today?
I am a neonatologist. I am board certified and I am a DO. I trained in medical school at Touro University in the Bay Area, California. And then I did my pediatric residency and neonatology fellowship at Oregon Health and Science University in Portland. I then decided to come home basically to Southern Oregon, and that's where I practice neonatology and have for going on 7 years. And I also am delving into the world of physician wellness. So I spent a lot of time developing my own wellness, my own mindfulness over the past several years. And I have become a leader in wellness at my institution. And with the onset of COVID, I decided to kind of channel my energy into creating a website for physician wellness called the Physician's Lounge Online. And I have a lot of resources for physicians. I'm working on starting a blog and also have coaching opportunities there for doctors.
So as a neonatologist, I could imagine things must have been pretty busy. Now, was there an inciting event that made you transfer some of your professional energy towards wellness?
I think I was first introduced to the concept of mindfulness in residency when, just there had been a lot of really intense patient experiences, like I think we all have in residency. And that's where I first learned about the concept of mindfulness. But I think like so many other trainees, I didn't feel like I had the time to really implement a practice. And so in the couple of years following fellowship, my first years as an attending, I definitely got to a point where I was, getting burnout, and I decided to really kind of dig in at that point. We took a trip to Japan, and I think I saw a lot of the potential for self-care, creating awareness, living intentionally. And after that, I just continued to kind of build my mindfulness practice over the years. And I started to see what a big impact it made on my ability to have satisfaction with my job and also just in the other parts of my life, really living in the moment and being present, which is really important to me.
Now, what exactly is a mindfulness practice, and how do you intertwine that with what you do professionally as a neonatologist?
For me, mindfulness revolves around meditation. I meditate actively, and it's not maybe as hardcore as what some people might consider, but I use meditation apps, and I know that there's a direct correlation with when I meditate daily and the way that I feel and the way that I'm able to show up in my life and in my job. When I'm having a routine practice, the other ways are through journaling. I think that that's really helpful in just reflecting and getting a lot of the thoughts that are swirling around inside your brain out onto paper. When I'm able to do that and be more actively engaged that way, I notice that I'm able to show up kind of in a better way for my patients in terms of, really being present with the patient, with the families, taking a breath, noticing everything that's going on, and then having peaceful or kind of enhanced sense when I'm at work, getting less frustrated by some of the little things that I really used to get quite upset by.
So let's transition into your Kevin MD article,
Mm-hmm.
4 Ways to Decrease Your Dread of Being on Call.
Mm-hmm.
First off, can you explain why you dread being on call, and then
Sure.
summarize the article for those who haven't read it?
So there wasn't one particular event that happened, but it was really kind of a series of experiences that I had, particularly on call. I think that we tend to have some middle of the night experiences that may be more intense with patients being really sick and maybe feeling alone. And I think that probably amplifies that feeling. When I was becoming more aware of my feelings, we're kind of taught as doctors to just kind of stuff them down and not really acknowledge them. And with developing a mindfulness practice, I was becoming more aware of what I was feeling. And then I realized, man, like I really don't like call. In fact, it probably was leading to some of my feelings of wanting to leave medicine early. I was thinking about how early could I retire. I had a lot of thoughts about, trying to exit. And so when I really dug in and was trying to figure out what that was, having like angst around call, having this dread of being on call and, something bad potentially happening, it made me realize that something needed to change with that. And I thought that the only way to change was to just stop taking call, which for a neonatologist means stop being a neonatologist, because that's what we do, right? And that didn't seem very palatable to me anyway. So I started to kind of dig into different ways to troubleshoot that. And that's when I came across life coaching, and I met a coach at a retreat, and I said, you want to try to coach me on this? And she was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And just the way that she was able to help me reflect on the thoughts I was having and how kind of irrational some of them were, and how much I was creating my own suffering was really helpful. And that was kind of just the first piece. And I think with many people, when they dread, quote unquote, dread anything, there's lots of layers to that onion that you have to kind of peel back. So there could be, for different people, it might be that they're worried something bad's going to happen. There's also oftentimes a lot of like, I don't want to lose sleep. I don't want to lose time with my family. I find it so annoying when I get these texts, or, there's just so many different parts of it to peel back. And so when I started to really dig into working through my feelings about being on call, and then realizing how much better it was and how much it really impacted my career satisfaction, and not feeling like, okay, now I have some longevity. I really do feel like I'm going to be able to continue doing this as long as I originally wanted to. I felt like I really had to share that with others, because I don't think it's very well acknowledged. I think everyone just, it's the culture, like everyone kind of hates call and whatever, but and I wasn't aware that the feelings, like I had some pretty impressive feelings about not wanting to be on call, but there are lots of other people that actually feel that way. And that's what I'm kind of discovering now, and realizing that there are others that have that. It's validating, one, but also it led me to want to help others deal with this as well, and hopefully help people stay in medicine longer. If this is one of the things that's contributing to them not wanting to be in medicine anymore, I think I have a duty to share this with others.
Now, what kind of actionable tips do you have for physicians to make call more palatable?
Yeah. So I think one thing is awareness, right? So being aware of how you feel, because I think, again, oftentimes when we feel things, we don't tend to acknowledge them. We just kind of stuff them down, and then they come out in other ways. Like for me, it was, I'd be irritated or annoyed easily, or, people will overeat or overdrink. There's lots of different ways. And so number one is awareness. And so that's why I really do, recommend some sort of practice in mindfulness, because I think that can be really helpful for just knowing what you're feeling. And then from there, writing about it, kind of exploring your thoughts, being curious about it. And also, because it was so effective for me, and because that's what I'm, kind of one of my new passions is now, is, get help, like get coaching with it, because it can be really difficult to understand, when we just sit with our own thoughts. It's hard to see them clearly. It's hard to really see what we're creating for ourselves until someone's able to kind of bounce that back on you.
Now, is there anything that hospitals and medical institutions can do to make call a little bit easier for physicians?
I mean, yeah, and none of this is to say that we shouldn't be also advocating for ourselves and advocating to have more humane work hours or anything like that. It's just that in the current circumstance as it is, I think that there are things that we can do to manage our minds around this. But certainly, yeah, I mean, I think the whole culture of medicine could use a major mindset shift, because the way that it's been created and the way that we have been expected to be, superhuman
Mm-hmm.
and work these incredibly long hours, be perfect, make no mistakes, even when we're sleep deprived, even we know there's evidence that that is not a rational expectation. And so, yeah, I think that for sure, shifting potentially towards more shift work, having realistic expectations of work hours is really important.
We're talking to Katie Townes. She's a neonatologist, and she wrote the Kevin MD article, 4 Ways to Decrease Your Dread of Being on Call. Katie, in your coaching practice, when you talk to other physicians, what are some of the challenges that they most often express?
I focus a lot on call, but also all sorts of kind of just career challenges or come up, or items surrounding their job that are a challenge for them or a struggle. And so we talk about, specifically with call, we talk about, the anticipated sleep deprivation
Mm-hmm.
and how to kind of manage our thoughts around that, what to expect. There's the anticipated, time away from family, which oftentimes creates a lot of like angst for people. There is the pager, the pager or the Vocera or we have Doc Halo, a secure texting. So, there's ways that you can kind of change the way you think about those in order to make them all more neutral, which is what in the end, all of those are neutral circumstances, but what we end up thinking about them determines how we feel and then what we go on to experience and our results. So those are some of the common ones when it comes to call. And then, I talk about other struggles that they may be having with their career, or, things that they're going up for promotion, or there's lots of different potential. Mm-hmm.
What is your number one tip for dealing with that anticipation that you talked about for being on call?
So my number one tip for dealing with that anticipation of being on call is be aware of it and try not to resist it. There's this kind of Buddhist concept of pain times resistance equals suffering. So we have this feeling or this pain, right? And then we try to push it away and resist it. And that's what creates suffering. That's what creates ongoing pain and ongoing suffering. And so for me, I think this whole mindfulness journey has really led to understanding acceptance and not resistance. And that has made a big impact for all areas of my life.
And my final question, Katie, what's your take-home message that you want to leave with the Kevin MD audience?
I just want physicians to know that we don't work in a perfect system, that you are important, you are a valuable member of the society, and if there is something that you can do to manage the way that you feel and to improve your career satisfaction, improve your fulfillment with your job, then please try to do that before you consider leaving medicine.
Katie, thank you so much for sharing your time and insight. And thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it.